Hi, this is Gary Dranow from Park City, Utah, and the Gary Dranow Show, proudly broadcasting to you from Radio Evolve Rocks in Santa Barbara, California. Listen more and evolve. Welcome to the Gary Dranow Show. Today I'm with Sal Baglio. A little bit about Sal. He's his early days and formative years, his legendary musical work included the Stompers, the Amplifier Heads, and now I believe the Peppermint Kicks. Finally, the wild creative ride that is songs from They Came to Rock, which is the Aliens Came to Rock. We'll have an open-ended conversation to allow Sal and our guests to expand on and engage on storytelling. So, Sal, great to have you on the show. I am privileged, and you have quite the musical history. So, if I may ask, take us back to your childhood. Where did you grow up, and what kind of music was playing in your home when you were growing up?
Absolutely. First, let me just thank you for having me on your show, Gary. It took us a few tries, but we got it. Um, so thanks for that. And growing up, I grew up in East Boston, Massachusetts, and it's kind of where, for people who aren't familiar with Boston, Eastie is where Logan Airport is located. So I inhaled a lot of jet fuel as a child, which may it may
May,
give an answer or two to some of the things that have occurred in my life. I don't know, but yeah, I was very fortunate to grow up in a musical family in a very musical time. My dad was a guitar player, you know. Um, my grandfather on my mother's side was he, uh, he was like a vaudevillian character, you know. He led his own band, he played drums, he sang. Very, very outgoing guy. My father was a little bit more introspective, and uh, but I got a lot from both of them, you know. Um, my dad taught me my first chords. I was probably, I don't even know, five. You know, I was just a little kid,
so
and
you got
he
started
taught.
young. That's great.
Well, yeah. I mean, I can tell you honestly, the music called me early. I mean, I have memories of hearing songs from, I think maybe the first pop song I remember might be uh, "The Witch Doctor," 1958, and so
Mm.
that would have made me extremely young. But my dad taught me the chords to. He was very big on Django Reinhardt and gypsy jazz music,
The
and
best, the best, one of the greatest of all times. Django with his,
yeah,
which is two fingers.
absolutely. Can you imagine? I mean, he played, and then he was in a fire which paralyzed his fingers, and he retaught himself how to play, and it was just magnificent. And my dad would always tell me that story. And the first song he taught me was "The Sheik of Araby," which I can remember to this day. He developed the chords after he showed me where to put my fingers, and then he'd play the rest of it, you know. And I just went on from there. You know, it wouldn't be too long before. Uh, I mean, I was familiar with pop music from AM radio and records that were played in the house, and then I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. Boomsy, you
That
know.
that had an effect. That was your lightning bolt moment.
Well, that was one of them for sure. That was one of the big ones. I mean, we East Boston at that time, the early 60s, was still a very Italian American um, community. And literally the next day, I tell this story a lot. The next day, everybody went to school on Monday, still wearing crew cuts, whiffles and stuff, and trying to put the little patch of hair down in front. And all of a sudden, all these Italian kids at school talking with an English accent. So it was that was the culture shock. That was the popular culture shakedown. Musically, man, it was just beginning. It was just beginning, and I loved it all. I loved all of the British music. I mean, the Kinks are way up there on my in my musical DNA. Ray Davies and the Kinks and the Who and the whole gang of them. But yeah, so February '64, on a black and white TV, like a lot of people from that generation, that's when I saw the Beatles the first time. And then that July, I had an older brother who took me to see A Hard Day's Night at
Mm.
a local theater. That, I think, really, I already loved music, but then I saw them up on the screen just running around, not doing anything except making music all day and being chased around. And I said, that looks like something to be interested in doing, you know. So here I
Uh,
am.
since we're pretty close in age, I
Yeah,
can very much relate to how the Beatles, Ed Sullivan, um, affected you. What affected me even more, I don't know if you know about him, but a jazz guy named Wes Montgomery was on the Ed Sullivan Show,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that just blew my mind. Um, so, other than the Beatles, who were your earliest influences, artists, or records that made you think this this is it for me?
Well, that was it. I mean, like I said, I already loved music before I had that before that moment in '64. I loved everything I heard on the AM radio. Uh, so that was very influential to me was AM radio of the early '60s. Um, uh, as I got older, though, it seemed to be the Beatles and the entire British invasion that really spoke to me. But I also loved, as far as American groups, I was very, very taken by Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, of course, but his writing and production. I loved all the Motown. Bob
Yeah, it
Dylan.
just a point of interest. My current manager is best friends with Jardine, so
Beautiful. That's
yeah.
that's wonderful. I have a little history with them, which is just amazing. Uh, when I think over my life as a person, a young person who started out as such a big fan of music, it sometimes it's very emotional for me. As a child, you may remember this, Gary. I mean, I'm talking about I was 8, 9 years old, 10, I'd come home from school and I'd put on a record, whatever it was, in
40
this
40
case,
forty fives
the
at the
Beach
time, right? 45s at
but
the
for
time.
and albums, we had the stereo, but yeah. I love the sound of 45s. Don't even get me started with that. But I
No,
would
let's
put on,
definitely get started with that
yeah,
after you finish what you're saying.
I would put on the Beach Boys live, the Beach Boys in concert album. If I don't know if you remember that particular one, it was like from 1964. I would put it on an air guitar the entire show, and I would think of myself as I was in the band or whatever it was. So now let's flash. let's go ahead to the Stompers, which was my first band that had record deals and did that whole thing in the 70s and 80s. And now we're on the road and we get some shows with the Beach Boys. Well, I'm excited and as happy as anyone could be. But it gets even better. I get to talking with the late wonderful Billy Hinchy and Jeff Foskett. They became friends. And then Carl Wilson says to me, he goes, "Would you like to come up and sing uh, during the encore?" And
Seriously.
I'm thinking, Gary, this is like when I was a kid in my room listening to these records and air guitaring. I mean, the time it took me to answer him, he said to me, "You don't have to if you don't want to." And I was like, "No, Carl, thank you. I'll be up." He goes, "Okay, right after Good Vibes, just come up on the stage." Good Vibes. Okay. So, you know, uh, truly grateful for this rock and roll fantasy life that I've been able to have, and that particular one will never leave me until the day I'm gone. Carl, and they're all gone now. Dennis was alive at the time. It was the early '80s. Dennis was there. Carl, Brian wasn't on that show. I met him years later through a mutual friend, Andy Paley. Um, uh, I'm pretty sure you may be aware of Andy Paley. He produced,
Uh-huh.
Brian's first solo album. And just amazing, just amazing. So that's how much I love this thing that we all fell in love with. You know, it became the center of my my being and my life. Of course,
Yeah,
as a young,
for me, it was Jimi Hendrix. So, well, the
yeah,
Eric
yeah, well,
Clapton, Cream era, and right behind that, Jimi Hendrix. Um, but of course, the Who and the Kinks and all the British invasion uh, uh, had a big impact on me as well. So, just
yeah, yeah. Those guys as well. I mean, I can remember getting Electric Ladyland, what was I, maybe 12 when I got that record or something like that, you know, blew my head. Um, that's the other thing about being a young person at that time. Uh, the White Album for Christmas, I got the White Album and Beggar's Banquet one year. I'll never forget that. That's 68, so I was 11. Those are heavy pieces of music for a kid to listen to, I think,
mhm.
and then soon after, I can remember having Electric Ladyland in the house. I forget if my brother brought it home or what, but that record definitely was a turning point as well. The thing I love about that period of time and those records is the artistry of it. It wasn't just, okay, here are a bunch of good songs. It was the artistry of the way that particular record moved. It started out with that and the Gods Made Love, which was kind of like a sound art into a whole bunch of incredible songs, and then a long jam session. You and I could do a whole show just talking about that album. you know,
Maybe
oh
we
man,
will.
yeah, it's just so great. Yeah, Gary, all that entire time, and then as I kept going, and then of course, the Beatles break up, and now you're at 1970. And so, Led Zeppelin is huge. The Who really, even though they started out in the 60s and were pretty big, now they're really coming into their place, I
Yeah,
think.
and
You know.
Hendrix died, and I went to Vietnam. So,
Oh,
Uh,
Gary,
I,
yeah.
I can never forget it when I got off the plane in Cameron Bay. All along Watchtower was playing on the speakers throughout the whole base, and I hadn't heard it until then, and it was just surreal.
Well, I will salute you, and I'm very happy you made it back, my friend. You know, it's an interesting thing that just a couple of years difference, it's not many years difference in our life, made that huge change where I didn't have to go. You know, my older brother was in the Air Force at the time. He didn't go to Nam though. Um, he served his time stateside and in Greenland, but he didn't go to Vietnam. However, his best friend Walter, they went in together. He went into the army, and he went to Nam, and I would write him letters, and you know, it took months before you get a reply, but my brother would always say, "Write to Wally, man. He's in the middle of it." You
Yeah,
know,
you
and I
you
would
you
just
probably helped him more than you know.
he was a great guy that I knew, you know, growing up, you know, my brother's best friend, and but he also made it back. Um so that was quite a time, Gary. So it's good to know you, my friend, and that you made it home.
Yeah, thank you. Were you already writing songs or playing in bands as a kid or teenager? I mean, how early did you start with the band thing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I started pretty early. I mean, you know, right after that whole Beatle thing, you know, it seemed like the next day every cellar in East Boston had a band playing.
Sal, we're going to take a 2 minute break. We'll be right back.
From the early, early morning to the middle of the night, she prances round like Jagger back in '65. Oh, empty seats in the dome. The lights are on, but ain't nobody home. That girl is a space cadet. Her brain is wet from wearing too much aquanet. A satellite dish, no TV set. That girl is a space cadet. Well, she's a walking tape loop of drama and despair. Won't stop talking or come up for air. But hey, back in the day, you should have seen her Milky Way. That girl is a space cadet. Her brain is wet from wearing too much aquanet. A satellite dish, no TV set. That girl is a space cadet. Louis said she stole all of his dough. Took off in his saucer, left a note. It read, "Clap to Mariah, Nick Domain. Oh, whoopie, papa, loompa, oh, whoop, bam." That girl is a space cadet. Her brain is wet.
This is the Gary Dranow Show with Sal Baglio, telling us amazing stories of touring with or playing with the Beach Boys and playing with Jay Giles' band. Um, Sal, uh, how did you transition from the Stompers into the Amplifier Heads, and what inspired this new project?
Yeah, well, that was a little bit of a long time coming. So with the Stompers, you know, having been from the 70s and 80s, and we had a certain audience that loved what we did, they didn't seem to want to hear anything new. So we had a couple of essentially we made one record on Boardwalk Records, and then it was re-released when Boardwalk Records went bankrupt, it was re-released on Mercury with a couple of new tracks on it. So essentially, in the 40-something years that the Stompers were together, we made two records, and then I think we put one self-titled, one uh, self-distributed one out in 1990 or something like that. But what had happened is I kept writing songs. I kept writing songs that were maybe moving away from, hey, everybody, let's rock. Everybody say, yeah, I was moving somewhere else. And that audience really wasn't interested in that. So I had kind of painted myself in a corner with that because it was also my bread and butter. You know what I mean? So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what do I do? And so one can become bitter and not appreciate what one has, which happened to me at some point. And then we kept going for a little bit more with that band, but I understood what it was. And what it was we were kind of like an oldies act for ourselves. We were like a tribute band to ourselves. We were playing to people who wanted to remember going to college in 1983 and coming to see us. So I put my head into that and separated writing new stuff and started to do that for myself. Um, and that I started putting out solo records in probably 2000, maybe. That's 25 years ago. Um, and the Amplifier Heads came about by I had a song called "The Boy with the Amplifier Head," and I was recording with the late great Ducky Carlisle, wonderful producer, drummer, great guy. Um, and I said, I need to call this album a band name. I don't want to call it Sal Baglio. You know, he's like, I said, I'm thinking the Amplifier Heads, and he said, yeah, yeah, that's what you got to do. And so uh, I decided to call my solo work, whether I had other musicians on it or not, call it the Amplifier Heads. I've always liked the idea of a band name rather than a solo person. And let's face it, Sal Baglio isn't the name that you know teenagers all over the world want to go see Sal Baglio. You know, you got to. A guy asked me once. This is a true story. I was at a gig and he said, "Sal Baglio, is that your real name?" And I said, "No, my name was Johnny Rock. I just thought I'd change it to Sal Baglio." I'm saying, like, why would anybody change their name to that? You know, but to answer your question, uh, I was writing differently and wanted to continue to make records. And as the Stompers finally we stopped playing, I think uh, 42, 42 years in, we put it to bed and it was the right time to do that and I focused everything on putting new music out and I would use a couple of different musicians and we'd go out and play live like the doing the IPO in England and all that uh, with David Bash. uh, it's a different day, so it's not like when I start out with the Stompers as far as venues to play. But I've done okay. I've done okay with radio play, and you know, uh, some years ago, I got a call from Adam Sandler's people, and they asked to use an old Stomper song that I wrote when I was a kid. God, I was living at my mother's house, my mother and father's house, before I left. And it's an old Stomper song called American Fun, and they wanted to use it in um, Grown Ups. And, you know, it's just amazing those things that happened. So that kept that kept both the Stompers alive for another of years, and it did me well. And I always thank Adam Sandler for that. But yeah,
Oh,
crazy.
so that's your second sync story, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's really something, man. Um,
I hope you're still
geez,
getting
just
royalties.
yeah, I do. I do. Thank you,
E-
man. I do. Yeah.
Excellent. The amplifier heads have, or you have such a distinct sound, hook heavy, witty, and layered. What's the process like when you're writing for your own band?
So, the best way that I write is I kind of feel something's hovering around me. I'm in the mood. I pick up a guitar, acoustic usually, and I just start banging out something that I'm hearing and I'm feeling, and usually pick up some nonsensical lyrics that give it the melody. And then I find the song. That's mostly how I work. Occasionally, it's an unknown, it's a mysterious thing that happens where a
It
song
just bubbles
will
up, huh?
arrive. Yeah, but and sometimes they come and they're all done. It just I was just an antenna. I happen to be there, and a song comes to me complete. It's really kind of mysterious, and I like it that way. And I was hired to write music for something, and I didn't know if I would be able to do that. Like pretty much Alien record uh, was I was hired to write for this gentleman, Nordy Cohen, was thinking about putting together some sort of musical or an interactive show. And he said, I have this idea. Aliens come here to find rock and roll. Do you think you can come up with anything? And I'm like, do you have a song called They Came to Rock? He's like, no. I said, I'll get back to you in 5 minutes. And I wrote that song, bang, 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 They Came to Rock. And then he loved it, and I continued to write like that. But he would say to me, I need a song about this episode that happened in New Hampshire, where a wife and husband were taken off on a ship or something like that, and I would try to weave that into some tune, and that's how that particular record came to be, and it also was an exercise in somebody asking me to write something about something, which like I said, it previously it's just whatever comes into my head is what I write about. Um, so that was an interesting period of time. I was happy for the work, and couldn't stop writing songs about space for a while. I put out an Amplifier Heads record called Saturn Aliens, which with all the songs that
Is
he
that
didn't
is
want
it
for his show.
is that with Space Cadet, Starlene, and Rock Rules?
Starlene is on my first Amplifier Heads record called Louder. Um, Rock Rules is on Rectifier, which is the, the record that and Space Cadets on that record as well. Uh, Even though that was written for They Came to Rock.
Uh-huh. Okay. Um, Space Cadet was named coolest song in the world on Little Steven's Underground Garage. How did that recognition impact your band?
Well, LSUG pretty much is the big game in town, where new rock music by unknowns can get played, or bands that have been around a long time that aren't on, regular radio. I don't even know if real radio exists anymore. So satellite radio and that particular show is a avenue for original rock music. So it was really, yeah, it was very, very helpful. It brought the level of spotlight on the band up, and I am extremely grateful to a bunch of people up there. They're really, really very nice to me and to all the music that I make. I've been very, very fortunate. Yeah, Bill Kelly is one of them, and uh, of course Steve. But Rodney is very good to us, and really Elmira Delran, amazing woman, just a great musician herself, who has a show there. She's on our new Peppermint Kicks record. We got Palmyra to do a little guest spot on our new record, so that's very cool.
And we will talk about that in a few minutes. Uh, a song that kind of hit me is out of left field from your music was Abandoned Amusement Parks. It's almost like surf guitar, you know?
Yeah, yep, yep. Yeah, that record was from 2020 when we went into the whole COVID thing, the whole we're going to shut down for 2 weeks. I went down into my basement studio and I said, well, okay, it was kind of a novelty at the time. There's nothing funny about that period of time, but I said, well, I'll write a song. I'll try to write a song a day and see what happens. Well, you know what happened. 2 weeks went into 2 years. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I wrote that record kind of just based on how I was feeling at the time. Music for abandoned amusement parks, which abandoned amusement parks really have a certain vibe about them. They were a place of joy and beauty, and they can look sad and frightening when they're abandoned. And that's kind of what life felt like at that time. Um, I, I like the work on that record a lot. I wasn't thinking in terms of I wasn't thinking in terms of radio or this is a pop tune. This will go good on this. I didn't think of any of that. I just created all this stuff, and one of my favorite records to make for sure. Yeah. So you heard some stuff from that one, Gary. You
Oh,
you
yeah.
liked some of the things you heard. Yeah, that's wonderful, man. Wonderful.
Absolutely. Let's talk about three songs in particular. When We Go Home Again. And to me, and I
Yeah.
know this is anathema to you to put labels on these songs, but that kind of had a more of a pop feel to me. And then we've already talked about Starlene, but uh, definitely rock, post punk. If I could put it in a basket, it sounds like that. And Rectifier, the same thing. So you cover quite a wide
Yeah.
range in your music.
Yeah, I do. I don't like to be stuck into one thing. I mean, I love putting on a Little Richard record, and I love putting on a Coltrane record, and I like to listen to a Yes album, and then I like to listen to ABBA. You know, I love all that stuff, and it's all very different from each other. But Starlene to me was like was definitely coming from a place of Little Richard, but playing wise, the band was the energy in there was a little thicker and harder. It was great. Um, when we go home again, it is a pop song. Yeah, it's definitely coming from a power pop place with the chords and the melody. That song came to me completely whole as you hear it. It was the most bizarre one of the most bizarre events I've had in a long time. Uh, and I wrote it after I finished the song. I realized it was my late dad's birthday, And I was like, wow, what an experience, because that's me and him he and I on the cover of that record. And I sing a lot about people lost and family and friends, and that we get to see them all when we go home again for just for a day is the premise of that song, time travel. And he's in there quite a bit. And I was like, I thought to myself, wow, man, it's his birthday. It's not like I started out to write it. Oh, I think I'll write a song about my dad today. It's his birthday. Had no idea. And
Mm.
it just that song from start to finish uh just came out, and I left it that way, you know.
I have a song that came from a dream I had called Destiny Road, and I got up the next morning and literally wrote the whole thing in 2 hours. I mean, so I've had the
Yes.
experience. I know what you're talking about.
You,
We have to
you
take
know
a
what I'm
2 minute.
talking about.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. We have to take a 2 minute break. We'll be right back with Mr. Baglio and a lot more about his music. Although we don't have that much time left because he's such a good talker. So 2 minutes. We'll be back.
She left town in a Hollywood minute. Took all my things, spread in double vision. Saying, come on. One hot mess, dripping with precision. Sweet lips on the television. Skull and crossbones, breaking my stones. She left home just the night before. I saw Miss Jones on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Roxana Jones, she's a queen of Hollywood Heights. That bird has flown. Roxana Jones, Roxana Jones, fornicating tongue of a two-tone bruiser, thrown in the back of a police cruiser, ringing my phone, saying, baby, come on. She left home just the night before. Little Miss Jones on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Roxana Jones, she's a queen of Hollywood Heights. Keep me in the stones. Roxana Jones, Roxana Jones. I've got the magazine, I read it every day, all alone with Miss Roxana Jones.
And this is the Gary Dranow Show, back with Sal Baglio from Eastern Boston when he was a kid. And Sal, let me ask you, what were your first gigs like, and any early performance stories that still stick with you?
Yes. Are you there?
In a word, yes.
Okay. All right. Uh, um, I have a couple that stick with me, but one was when I was in the sixth grade. My fifth grade teacher said, "Hey, how you doing with the music, Sal?" And I said, "Oh, we're doing great. We have a band. We write our own songs." And she goes, "Great. Why don't you come in Friday and play for the kids?" And
Oh my
so,
God.
yeah, exactly. So there was a drummer that lived next door, my good friend Joe Rizzo, and 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 me. And so we found this other guy that had an electric guitar. He was going to let me use. He was going to come and play, but he chickened out. So basically, Joe and I show up. I have a guitar. I have my father's little Silvertone amp, and we're in grade school. and they bring the kids in, and we have no idea what we're going to play. We just go 1, 2, 3.
And
I
off
can't
you go.
imagine. I cannot. Yeah, I can't imagine what it sounded like. I mean, but I have it in my head because I think uh, because it's so funny, but also just because of the belief at that moment that we could do that. You know, you say it and you go do it, which isn't far from what I did with the Stompers, which was a little bit later. We were just coming out of our teens. I was 18, maybe 19 years old when I started the idea to do the Stompers, and basically what was happening in Boston at the time was an incredible original music scene. I got out of high school in '74, and I joined a cover band because that's what you did, you know. I joined this cover band playing top 40 music of the day, which was not really rock, and it was mostly R&B. It was a good learning lesson and definitely a good way to go to school to learn some different things. So I'm traveling around with this band, but I'm missing my rock and roll uh, influence. I'm missing playing it. I'm missing doing it. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to be, right? So I hear about this thing happening in Boston at a place called the Rat in Kenmore Square that started like it probably was going in '74. I started to hear about it in '75, '76. I used to go down there and hear all these great Boston bands, you know, uh, Willie Loco Alexander and the Real Kids, Fox Pass, Thunder Train, Orchestra Luna, and I said, this this is where I need to be. Um, you start a band, you play originals. This is great. I think there was one other room. There was the Rat, and in Cambridge, Mass, there was the club. And so I left the cover band thing, and I said, I'm putting a rock and roll band together. It's going to be called the Stompers, and we're gonna play high test rock and roll with pop melodies and jump around and have a ball, and we're gonna be successful, and we're gonna be a big band. You know, I was 19, so you just nobody can kind of sway your dream at that age, you
But at
know.
that time, people
My
were getting
dad,
record.
God love him,
But at that time, people were getting record deals, so it was possible.
absolutely, Gary. Right. It was a different day. I'll tell you, man, it's so different than today. So this scene was born, and by '77, which is when the Stompers began, uh, it was in full bloom, man. And we played for a while. We played every Monday night at the Rat for maybe a year, and then we worked, and then we get the occasional weekend with one of our other bands from town, uh, and you get a crowd that likes you. Boston radio was playing. You could make a tape, and bring it to the biggest radio station in Boston, and they would play it. um, which meant people came to the club. They knew a song of yours. Wow, this is
That's huge.
amazing.
Let me
And
ask you, do you know David Bash, International Pop Overthrow?
absolutely, very well.
Uh,
Yeah,
do you play on his tour?
I've played the Cavern in England, I think
Aha!
3 or 4 times. I did Chicago, New York City, and obviously Boston for
Which
David.
which
Yeah.
which brings me to my question, since you were definitely rock and roll in your early stages, your music is kind of morphed into pop, and I would say pop post-punk. Would you agree with that?
You know, putting names on things always confuses me. It
Yeah,
really
I'm sorry,
does,
man.
Gary. No, no, don't, no, no, no. I don't mean it in that way. But I mean this honestly as I can say. Once I start getting into genres and stuff, I always think of music. I always think of my music as rock and roll, but I understand that term to a
It's a
lot of
big,
people
it's
means
a,
a
it's a, it's
specific.
yeah, and it's a big bucket. It's a big bucket.
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and do a show on the difference between rock and roll, like you know, uh but yeah, it's melodic. I love melody first, but I also could enjoy a song full of noise and feedback. That I love as well. But primarily melodic, uh something with a melody that has a rock thing underneath it. So whatever that is to someone. I Once we get into the post-punk thing and all that, I honestly don't know. I get lost with it. I just
Hmm.
um once again, let's go back to a couple of the records you and I talked about. Let's look at Electric Ladyland for a minute, right? You had on there psychedelic sound art, and then a beautiful ballad like "Have You Ever Been to Electric Ladyland?" And then a blues jam on another side, and then some pop tunes as you got to the close. His version of pop tunes, like his version of "All Along the Watchtower." Amazing. So at that point in time, which is where I came from, that gave me my musical DNA, anything went at any time, but it was all under the guise of rock. Do
Hey,
you know
so
what I mean?
yeah, I do know what you mean. So how old were you when you figured out that All Along the Watchtower was really a Bob Dylan song? Did you know that right off the top, or did it take you a
uh,
little while?
no, I think I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure when. It might have been because I was crazy about reading album covers. So maybe I saw it in the credits or something that he wrote it, but I didn't hear his Dylan's version of it for a long time after that. I didn't. I think that was on the John Wesley Harding record, and that wasn't on my radar until later on. Um, I think, Bob has probably said it that is the quintessential version of that song. It's just amazing. Everything about Jimmy's version, the sound of the recording, the arrangement, the production,
The
just
solos.
incredible. Oh, amazing, amazing.
uh, let's go back to the Stompers for just a minute. What was the spirit and
Yeah, yeah,
mission of, yeah, what was the spirit and mission of that band when it first started?
sure. That was easy. We wanted to go in. I wanted to go in and blow the roof off the house. I wanted to make people. I wanted to say everybody say yeah, and I wanted them to say yeah. And so we did that. That was the mission
So,
of the
so
Stompers, and I think because
what amp were you playing through then?
I was playing through two Fender Twins,
Ah, 200 watts.
not one.
Yeah, 100 watts
Two
each. Yeah.
twins. And I think I had a Strat back then that I was using. I since changed to Telecasters, but um, yeah, yeah. Uh, I stayed in the Fender amp place. That's good. That works for me. You know.
I can't tell you how many Tweed twins have had over the years. Just so you know, I've got
Oh
an
man.
87 guitar collection, and right
Oh
now
man.
I'm selling 30 of. I've got the biggest Electra guitar collection I believe in the world, and I'm selling half of it off right now because it's just a good time for Japanese guitars. Um, what were
Japanese
some of your
guitars are
most
wonderful, man. They're
oh,
wonderful.
great craftsmanship, especially out of the Matsumuko factory. What were some of your most memorable moments from that era, either on stage or behind the scenes? And we're still talking about the Stompers.
Yeah, there were many. You know, like I had spoken previously. Touring with the Beach Boys was one of them. Peter Wolf and the J.
So
Giles band.
did I miss this? You actually toured with the Beach Boys, or you opened a
Well,
few shows for the Beach Boys?
we opened a few shows for them. Yeah, it wasn't like a 30 dates. You know, it was they were New England dates that we did with the Beach Boys, and
I mean,
also for Carl Wilson solo.
yeah, that's so fantastic. I mean, you're such a lucky guy. Um, so,
I am. I second that. We also
how,
played with in 1980, 3 years before our first record deal. Peter Wolf and the J. Giles band asked us to play on their Christmas tour, which was six to eight dates. I forget how many in New England in arenas. So this is
geez,
just amazing, you know. And they did that. Peter and the band did that for many of the local bands. You know, there was I believe I'm not going to list them all because I'm going to leave somebody out. But we were one of a few bands that got asked to do this Christmas tour with them, and it was amazing, you know, to be going from the clubs we were playing to a 20,000 seat arena. Whoo, man, and that crowd liked us because, you know, we were coming from the same energy. Uh, if not musically, we were coming from the same energy as the Jay Giles band. You know, they knew how to raise a roof, man. Let me tell you, those guys,
oh my, yeah,
both
I know.
Peter, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to take a 2 minute break, and Sal and I will be right back. Gary Dranow Show. We're back with Sal Baglio and his amazing stories of rock and roll, pop, and the peppermint kicks. What's it like releasing music through Rumbar Records? Is that your own label or is that a real label? I didn't
No,
get a chance to search that
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. That is Lou Mansdorf is a gentleman from Boston who runs Rumbar Records. Um, I met him through Dan Kopko, my musical partner in the Peppermint Kicks. And Lou is just a wonderful guy. He's got a great energy. He only puts out music that he likes. It's uh, and it's a nice home right now, Rumbar Records. And so I met him when I did the first Peppermint Kicks record with Dan. And then I said, "Listen, I get these Amplifier Heads records. Are you interested?" And he was, "Yes, let's do it." And it created a wonderful relationship. There was a lot of Boston bands, and actually, there are bands from all over the world that are on Rumbar Records. And Lou is a great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy. Happy to
Okay,
be
so
there.
it's probably a misnomer to say you're also a part of the Peppermint Kicks, but because it's probably your project. How is that project different from the Amplifier Heads in terms of style and attitude?
Um, well, the first thing is with the Amplifier Heads, it's all me. I don't change anything for anyone. I just it's whatever I create. I hear what I want. I go for it, and I'm happy with that. The Peppermint Kicks is I'm working with Dan Kopko, and so it's a little different in that way. Where I'll send him, we send each songs we're working on, uh, and then the other person puts their twist on it. But it's cool. It works out okay that way. I can do
So
that today
a
and
great
feel good about it.
a great collaboration.
Yes, absolutely. Dan is a great writer. He had a rock band, a serious rock band called Watts, which were amazing. And then he's been doing some pop music with High Lows with a mutual friend, Jen D'Angora. And then we met at a gig somewhere, and we're like, hey, we should get together and whatever, that how that rap goes. We should do something someday. And then during COVID, we did the first Peppermint Kicks record, and we had a ball. It's very pop, very very power pop. We get all our kicks, all our power pop kicks out in the Peppermint Kicks.
Yeah,
Uh, and
I've heard at least two songs off it: Radio Worn Bam Boom and Roxetta
yep.
Jones.
Yeah, Roxetta Jones was from the first record, and Radio Wham Bam Boom is from the new one. Yeah, yep,
And
absolutely.
isn't Radio Wham Bam Boom releasing like right here presently?
Yeah, that's the current single. Yep, it's doing really really well, and the album comes out August 1st. For whatever that really means, Gary, we could talk about that. But the album will be released worldwide August 1st on Rumbar Records, and the next single is a track called "Too Sweet."
Uh-huh. Okay. I can only imagine. From the mind of Sal Baglio.
Yeah, yeah, man. Dan did a lot of work on this thing. We played all the instruments ourselves except for drums. We got a drummer to come in and play on the tracks, different tracks. But everything else we played together. We wrote everything together, and I think it's a fine, fine pop record. I'm also
Um,
working on two amplifier heads, too, as we speak. So, you
so
know,
both projects are living side by side.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. You've been at this for decades. How do you stay creatively hungry and energized?
Wow. Well, that's an interesting question, Gary. There are
That's what you hired me
times.
for, man.
That's right. Listen, man, you want to get in with Gary D. So the thing is, there are times where I just kind of dry up with ideas, and I think to myself, I'm never going to write again. But then that's always met afterwards with a big wave of creativity. It's always been that way with me. It's a wave where I'll just start and I have to go with it until it decides it's going to come to an end. Um, for instance, right now, we did this record over the winter and got it prepared for a summer release. But I've been working on two Amplifier Heads records. One is it's got over 20 tracks cut for it, and the other one's got 8 songs. And it was a big wave, and I've been working at it for a while. So, but yeah, it just comes and goes. The times when it's not there is pretty depressing and can get a little dark, but
And
but luckily
talking
it always
about,
bounces back.
yeah, and talking about depressing and dark, let's end up our hour with the music scene today and your perspective on it.
Yeah, the music scene today, depressing and dark. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, it's not the music scene. There are plenty of wonderful artists and bands creating music, and I don't know where young bands are. I mean, most of the people I know are in my age bracket, maybe with a
Yeah,
20
isn't
year
that a wild
difference.
thing that the people that are dominating music today are at least 40 and most likely 50 and 60?
Absolutely. I mean, just you and I talking about this right here. It's just the way it is. It's a weird time, all our favorite acts that are still touring, that are 80 plus years old, the Stones, McCartney, the Who. It's
Buddy Guy at
crazy.
88.
Buddy Guy, no, Buddy Guy. I didn't even mention to you that I play guitar for Tom Hambridge. Tom Hambridge was Buddy's chief songwriter and record producer, and he played drums for Buddy up until last year. He got off the road, but he produced his last record that's coming out any day now. I believe it comes out on Buddy's day. So I forgot all about that. I got my buddy Tom Hambridge in there.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've got
that's
a
it.
nice
Yeah.
signature. I got a signature Buddy Guy American polka dot Stratocaster, not a Mexican, and
Oh man, you
and
got.
I and I've got a picture of Buddy Guy where we play in our studio downstairs, signed by Buddy. So he's definitely uh, shining the light on where I can go at my age, uh, because of his
He's not.
longevity and
It's beautiful. He's not stopping. Tommy, working with Tom Hambridge, I play in his band when he goes out and plays live. My friendship with him and working with him has got me to be on stage with Buddy Guy. And Tommy got me on a Johnny Winter record. I mean, just some crazy stuff, man. So
that is,
he might be somebody you might want on your show sometime. That guy. Oh man.
well, if you could get me the invite, please do. Um, uh, uh, let's jump back a bit. We were talking about um, songs from where they came or they came to rock. That was really a rock opera, wasn't it?
Yeah, essentially, yes. That's how I went to work on it. Was with that in mind. The gentleman who hired me to do it, he didn't know if it was going to be a musical, a Netflix series, some sort of interactive thing where you walk into a spaceship. He had all these different ideas going, and he was just looking for music. And I approached it as a rock opera. Sure. Yep. It's exactly
Okay.
how I went about it.
And with that, believe it or not, an hour has passed. And Sal, I've really enjoyed having you on my show. I want you back desperately because I've got a lot more to talk to you about. Norty Jones, Barence Whitfield. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff. So thanks for coming on my show. My guests are going to love you. And yeah, you want to wrap up with anything?
Now I want to say thank you. This has been a blast. Like I said, we could probably talk shop for a long time, you and I. We could go late into the night talking music. So thank you for the invite. I want to thank our buddy Mark Platt, and
Yeah, Mark's a
I'll
great
see you
guy,
soon.
isn't he?
I hope. Absolutely, absolutely.
And I won't be a stranger. Stick around. We're going to close it down, but I want to talk to you. All right, everybody.
Absolutely.
That was Sal Baglio on the Gary Dranow Show.